What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Thrive Forever Fit Show. This week, I've got a little bit of a special style interview show for you. It's actually my buddy Shawn Marshall interviewing me. We did this interview on his Reinvent Yourself series, and it was so phenomenal and so powerful that we both thought it would be a great idea if we reintroduced it on my podcast and gave everyone an opportunity to listen to it either again or for the first time. This episode is going to help you discover your life's purpose, navigate any uncertainty or fear that you may be currently going through. And it's also going to help you make changes in the direction of the life that you want to live. I'm personally going to share how I use adversity as my advantage. Now, I know that sounds crazy, adversity being an advantage, but once you learn how to do it, guys, adversity can be the most powerful tool you have for overcoming obstacles and turning challenges into opportunities. Listen to today's show. I know you're going to love it. Hit me with some feedback after it's over. Sit back, enjoy. Shawn and I are going to entertain you for about an hour. All right, enjoy it.
All right, welcome everyone to the Reinvent Yourself series. My name is Shawn Marshall, and for those that maybe are tuning in for your first time, the Reinvent Yourself series is for those of you who have been thinking about doing something different in your life. You're getting an intuitive hit to take your life in another direction. You have a dream, a calling, but you haven't found the courage. This series, this conversation today is designed to have you access the courage to follow what it is that you really want to do with your life. So with that being said, I'm pumped up for today's guest, Jay Nixon. Jay is an author of multiple books. He runs a transformational studio in Palm Springs, or is it Palm
Desert, but it's all the same.
Palm Desert. Okay. Yeah. Palm Desert. He's an author, a mentor, a coach, and so many more things. And I think the thing, instead of reading your whole bio, what I love about Jay is Jay's just a guy who gives a shit. So
Truth.
Jay, man, welcome, bro. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Shawn. I'm excited to be here, man. I love any opportunity I get to jam with like-minded people, and I know that somebody's going to get some kind of value out of this today. I'm excited about that.
Likewise, man. I like that. The trust of doing something like this, or doing what you do, or writing a book, it's like you just have to trust that there's a ripple effect happening out there, and we may never see it, but I agree with you. I know that's going to happen. So why don't I put the spotlight on you, man? Talk a little bit about like who you are and what you're up to, and I would love to hear how you got to be doing, what you're doing, and the guy that you are today.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, I own a physical, brick and mortar fitness studio in Palm Desert, California. I've written 2 books, both of them I would call them the weight loss transformation world, but they're a little bit unique in the fact that they're not eat this, don't eat that type of books. They're more in the line of mindset, psychology, why we get stuck in the stories and why we get stuck in the non-successful patterns of our life. My mission and my goal is to really help people. I said to you the other day when we chatted, is I like to use fitness and nutrition as a way to get people into my world. And then I really start working on the things that matter. And that's the mindset and the psychology and why we do what we do, and happiness and abundance and awesomeness and all those types of things. So I also have a transformational coaching program. I have clients from all over the country and all over the world. I mentor, I coach, I speak on stages. And like you said, man, the real thing for me is I know I'm living in alignment, and I know how amazing that is. And my real purpose and passion is to get people to find their alignment, whatever that is, and then help them get on that path and then start having success. Because I believe momentum's the magic multiplier. Once you start getting momentum in your life, it just starts to come, and it comes in waves. And if I can just get people to start finding momentum and start creating a life that they really look forward to living, look forward to getting out of bed for, that's the home run hitter for me. I don't care if that means I'm gonna help you lose 100 pounds, start a business, create a better relationship, make more money. Like, I don't care what that is, because that is simply a side effect of me helping you figure out how to get you in alignment. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. That's who I am. And that's why I get up every morning super stoked to jump out of bed. I'll say one more thing before I shut up. I'm a firm believer in this, like gratitude drives me. And people are always like, yeah, that's super buzzy. Everybody's saying that. You can ask my significant other, Lori, we've been together 15 years. I am annoying to the fact of gratitude is the biggest thing in my life. When I wake up every morning, I say the words thank you out loud. First of all, I say, holy shit, I'm alive, because I'm super pumped about that. I say thank you out loud. And then my next statement out of my mouth is, God, universe, whatever you believe in, guide me in the direction of helping as many people as humanly possible today. I start every day like that, man. And I feel like if I do that, I can't lose.
I love it, bro. I absolutely love it, man. I read Power of Now, man, years and years and years and years ago. Yeah. And I remember walking. I used to take these walks while I would listen to him speaking, and I would practice just closing my eyes while I was walking and just being grateful for like listening to the birds or like my feet working or whatever, you know, open my eyes. And then it's like, wow, look at the trees, look at all these things. And there's so much to be grateful for. And just to start your day like you do with it's like a celebration of like, yeah, absolutely. Wow. And it's so true, because we're not guaranteed to wake up. And no. I just, dude, I'm inspired that you're present to that, you know, every morning. Like, whew, I made it.
Yeah. And I also think it's my responsibility. I get up at 3 o'clock every morning. And that's not people are always like, oh my God, that's not a badge of honor. I think you can get up at 7 o'clock and still be as successful as I am. That just happens to be how my day operates. So that's not like oh, I'm doing more than you are. Trust me, I go to bed at 8 o'clock at night. You're probably staying up till 10 or 11, which is, you know, great. So it's not about the time you get up, but it's like when I get up, I'm getting up. Like I'm getting up ready to win. I'm getting up ready to thrive. I'm never in dread. And so I always say that I get up at 3, because most people, when they get out of bed, they start their day from a place of like, oh man, like today's gonna suck. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to hurry. I got to rush. And it starts this cascade of really negativity in their life. I start my day at 3 o'clock by saying those things out loud that I just stated I said. And so if you happen to roll into me at 4 a.m., like you're going to get this guy must be on something. Like nobody should be, yeah. Nobody should be this excited at 4 a.m. Right. But I've trained myself and conditioned myself to be that way, because I believe that I'm responsible for the energy I bring into every scenario and every situation. And I never want to meet you, even if it's for the 100th time, and not be in a powerful position where I can do something that is great for you. And if I'm coming from a place of negativity or dread or doubt, I can't give you my best self. And it's my obligation as a human to show up and be the best version of myself for me first, and then for everybody else that I get to encounter second.
Dude, it's so powerful, man. What's your, like, how do you stay connected to that sense of purpose?
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah, I love that question. I derive that my purpose and passion now from knowing that I'm in alignment. Like you and I talked when we chatted last week, I walked away from what most people would say were some of the coolest jobs on the planet, right? Like I used to work for the largest nutrition company in the world, meaning like I've been behind the scenes of you name a nutrition company, I've been inside of their walls, right? I've done something with that company. I used to work for the largest pharmaceutical company in the world. They're one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Company car, massive expense account, you name it, like considered the cool job. Then I got to consult for the NFL alumni. Like I literally have met, like I said the other day, I've met if you say an NFL player's name, I've probably met him. I've probably played golf with him. I've probably had a cocktail with him. We've probably hung out. I walked away from all of that because it wasn't in alignment with who I was supposed to be. And I started from zero. I started my fitness and nutrition and transformation business with nothing, no clients, no real idea of how it was going to transform for myself. But I knew if I was doing that and my purpose was to help the other people, that I could get out of bed every day and bust my ass for myself to help other people. And that's what keeps me going, man, is I know every day I get up, I'm going to change somebody's life that day. And that's a powerful thing to think about. It's not, I want to, it's not this, I'm going to, because it's how I've constructed my existence. And by doing that, like, I'll say this and it sounds a little bit cliche. I don't get to have bad days. Do I have bad moments? Do I have doubt? Do I have adversity? Absolutely. but I don't allow myself to have a bad day, because that's way too much valuable time wasted on something that's going to bring no value to anybody. And my life's mission and purpose is to really bring value, right? If that's through a conversation of me making you smile, that's value for me. If it's me helping you change your life and lose 100 pounds, value for me. And neither one of them has more power over me. They both are about me helping you.
Yeah, bro. That's powerful, man. There, I had a super question. So when I love this, I love this way that you live of like, I'm not going to allow like a bad moment to spill out into an entire day or an entire week or an entire month. Do you have like a parameter where you give yourself, where you're like, this shit just turned upside down for a second in my mind or my emotions or whatever, do you did you give yourself like 30 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes to like be in your shit and then get out of it? Or how do you guarantee every time that it's not going to spill in and you waste an entire day?
Great question. I'll preface that by saying this. I don't want people to think that like my life is just super rosy or whatever, whatever it may be. I wrote my second book's called The Purpose of Pain. And so my father was killed when I was 5. I lost a lot of other fatherly figures from the time I was like, 17. When I was 17 years old, I had a mentor. He lived next door to me. And on Christmas Day, I had to give him CPR because he had a heart attack until the paramedics got there. And he passed away on the way to the hospital. When I was 25, my best friend decided that he didn't want to be here anymore, put a shotgun in his mouth and killed himself. And so I know what adversity feels like. I know what shit feels like. I know what a bad 20 years feels like. And so for me, I fall back on that perspective. And I wrote the whole book because I wanted people to understand that regardless of the tragedy, if you can retrain the way you think about that, the perspective you have around that. So I no longer get to be mournful or sad about the loss of my father or the loss of my best friend or all the other folks that I lost in that gap. I have to celebrate their existence through me. And so that's kind of how I operate. Is I look at adversity now is simply an unanswered question. And so I just ask myself, so if I get that bad moment, right? Like something punches me in the face, and it always will, I simply pause. And trust me, I allow myself to be pissed. I allow myself to be upset. I allow myself to be angry, but I've also taught myself this. My emotions do not require reaction, right? And so if you think about that, most people get an emotional hit, and then their reaction is based off of that emotion. I know that most of my emotional hits are based on my old story. And if I react from that place, I'm going to react from a place that's not in alignment with who Jay Nixon is today. And so I allow myself to be pissed. I allow myself to feel that emotion. And then I simply ask myself that question. What's the question, Jay? Like, what's the question that you need an answer to? I may not have it, but that just means that I have to start now looking for my resources. I have to call you and say, Shawn, here's my question. What's going on, right? I have to call somebody else that's in my circle of success. Here's the question. And that's how I don't allow myself to ruminate on a negative thing. I'm really big on problem solution. So if you think about this, most humans, we spend 90% of the time on the problem and 10% on the solution. So what I do is I'll allow myself to spend about 10% of the time on the problem, dissecting it. What is it? What do I need? And then I spend 90% of my time on the solution. I mean, if you think about that, man, that's the game changer, right? That keeps me from getting stuck. If I was spending 90% of my time on the problem, of course I'm going to get stuck. Of course I'm going to have a bad day. But if I spend 10% on the problem, then I don't give myself enough time to have the bad day. I can have a bad moment, a bad hour, a bad couple hours, but that's it. And that's just through conditioning, right? I've conditioned myself to behave in that manner. Have I always been that way? Absolutely not, right? I used to have bad days. But once you learn that that has a negative impact on your life, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I want a different result. And so therefore I have to change the blueprint of how I respond to adversity.
Yeah, dude, you said a lot of great stuff there, man. I mean, the conditioning yourself to respond to your reactions instead of reacting to your actions is just so powerful, because we have conditioned ourselves, if we're not conscious about it, to react to certain situations or emotions in a negative way. Maybe it's anger or frustration. And it's like, how many years of training have you had? Not you, but the typical person, if we're not conscious, then how many years you're so trained? If anger is your go-to, there's a lot of things that are going to make you angry. If sadness is your go-to, there's a lot of reasons to be sad. And it's just a conditioned response. I think that's so important, man. Is that
sometimes it's not even yours, though. Sometimes somebody else put that inside of you. Like, hey, Shawn, if this happens, this is how you respond, right? It's a learned behavior. You can actually learn it by watching a parent or a sibling or somebody else in your life. So you got to be really aware of. That's why I said I asked myself this question. First of all, is this mine? Like, is this emotional reaction my emotional reaction? Is it from an old story, or is it somebody else's conditioning of me? Like, what we don't realize is, as humans, like, we're consistently being conditioned, right? If you watch television, even from a marketing perspective, you're being conditioned by that commercial on TV to think a certain way in order to elicit a certain response. So if you can be conditioned by TV, you can be conditioned by your life's programming, right? Your life story.
Yeah, super powerful, man. Dude, you know what that reminds me of when you say that we can be conditioned by other people, which of course we're conditioned by our parents, or watching other people react, we get their conditioning.
Yeah.
Such a powerful example of that. When I was 23, I got a dog. It was the first dog I had got, like, when I was on my own, little puppy, 8 weeks old. And dude, I raised her, and I used to, and this wasn't my reaction, but if I was on my computer and I hit a button that doesn't work, and then the computer makes a sound, it's like, something like that. Every time I get the brand, I say shit. It was just my reaction. And I got it from my dad. Shit. And so what started happening is my little puppy, it's sad that I did this, but I did it. She would hear that, and she would hear me be angry or frustrated. And every time, dude, the whole time I owned her, every time the computer went, brah, she would start shaking. She would get scared because she thought I was pissed. And when I realized, like, oh man, I conditioned her to be fearful when I get angry at the computer, I stopped doing it. But her whole life, and dude, she passed away 4 years ago. And still, when I hear the brat, I think, oh man, where is she freaking out? It's so powerful. I like that question, man.
That's a great story too, because it was a noise, but I'm big on, like, language. So if I'm working with a client, even if it's somebody that I'm not my client, I'll ask people, I'll say, like, hey, listen, I want to help you. You have to stop using that word. And they'll be like, what word? I'll be like, you keep saying, this is what I want, but. And you'll always give me a but after every time you say, oh, Jay, I want to lose weight, but Jay, I'd like to make more money, but Jay, I'd like to do this. You don't even realize you're doing it. It's a conditioned response because you've been taught that you're probably not going to get that. So you use but as that buffer between you and your success. And so for everybody listening, start to pay attention to other people's language, because sometimes that's easier to hear than your own. And then go internal and start to listen to words that you're using, phrases you're using that are creating a negative emotional state inside of you, and you'll start finding them. And so that's what I did, is I started looking inside of me as, like, what language? Am I using positive, powerful language, or am I using submissive, victim level language, which is eliciting a response, which is leading to victim, less powerful reactions and thoughts, and it all trickles down here. I believe in my first book's called The Overweight Mind, right? So you're not overweight because you got a problem with anything below the neck. If you're overweight, it's because there's something conditioned in your brain that is creating an environment that causes you to overeat or not exercise or do any other of the assortment of things that has you stuck in that pattern. And a lot of that has to do with language.
Dude, 100%. I agree, man. It's like you already have a belief system. You see yourself a certain way, and then your language shares that, and then your actions follow it right from the brain. It's all tied together. I think this is one of the like breakdowns that people have had since, remember when The Secret came out?
Yeah,
And, and then everyone was like, yes, I think, and I still like the movie. I know some people don't like the movie. Some leaders don't like it, whatever. But
I like it.
I think, me too, man. But I think like the breakdown with the law of attraction, or using your language in that way to be positive, is it doesn't stop with just using the positive word and expecting something different to happen.
Right.
And you're getting into it where you're saying like, you have to go in and look at the belief behind it and examine it and be with what you're saying. You can't just change the word on the surface, but you've got to go in and do some diagnosis and really get present. Like, what am I really saying?
Yeah. And if you can attach the appropriate emotion to it, it magnifies its power by 10x. Meaning, like, I'm big on like affirmations, and like, say, you have to be able to say, you'll never outgrow or be more than how you identify. Right. So if you identify as someone as I am, I'm not very smart, or I'm overweight, or I'm the, blank, right? Because you're attaching that emotion to that, you'll never expand outside of that. Even if you start saying things like, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm healthy, right? You see how that there's no emotion around that. So when I say something about myself, when I create an affirmation about me, I make sure that I attach the emotion to it, right? It's like thinking of an apple, right? If I just say, oh, I'm thinking of an apple, well, an apple can be so many things. It could be an Apple computer, it could be a phone, it could be a red, green, yellow, it could be any kind of apple pie. But if I visualize and create an emotion around a, red, delicious, or Granny Smith, it's very specific. And so I think if you're going to use an affirmation, you better attach a very specific emotion to that affirmation, and that will magnify its strength and actually allow you to start using that affirmation in a powerful way. Like, just doing affirmations is great, right? But it's not going to get you the desired result. Just wanting to be successful isn't going to get you successful. You've got to believe you can be, you got to believe you are, attach that emotion, and then take the appropriate action based on the emotion.
Yeah, man. And that's where the work starts, right? I think like when you start getting into those bigger goals, I want to manifest this, or I want to have this life, or whatever. And then you start, I mean, I know I've certainly done this where I've like leveled up my goal. I'm like, all right, I want to achieve this goal.
Yeah.
But then and I don't know if you can relate, maybe not the first, when it's something brand new, and I put myself in that state of having achieved that in the future, like what's the emotion? But then I realized there's a limiting belief in there that's already associated with it. And then it's like, okay, well, what the hell is that? And then I could shift away from it and pretend that limiting factor belief isn't there. But then I'm doing myself a disservice, because I already know that it's there. It's like I can pretend it's not there, but then it's not going to work. So I have to go in there and figure out, like, really, what's that about? Why do I think I can't achieve that? And then it's deep work. It's deep work way in there. The surface is like what we're talking about with the words, but then it's like that's the entry point to going in and doing that deep work.
100%. And that, everybody has that. Everybody has that imposter syndrome and that upper limiting. And that's what I talked about earlier. The best team meeting you'll ever have is going to be with yourself. And so get comfortable asking yourself questions. I don't think we don't ask ourselves enough questions, right? And so when I get to that place where I start to feel that discomfort and those negative emotions start to kind of come in, or those negative thoughts of, hey, Jay, you do not know how to do that. Like, you don't, maybe you're not smart enough, maybe you're not, whatever it is, I ask myself the questions, okay, what is this? Where is this from? Like, why am I telling myself that I don't have this that I need, right? And then once I get the answer to that question, then I can start to dissect it and overcome it. What happens with most people is they hit that roadblock, and then just think, well, this isn't for me, but this must not be for me. I better just cruise right back down here to where everything's comfy. It feels good. There's no adversity, there's no challenges. But what you'll realize is you're naturally inclined to want to elevate. But most of us have tried that so many times, and we hit that roadblock and then we fail. We hit that roadblock and then we fail. We hit that roadblock and then we fail. And there's no greater force than that that belief that, well, I'm just going to fail again. And so you've got to retrain your brain to know that all adversity is an unanswered question. And maybe you're just asking the wrong question. Maybe you're not asking the question of the right person. And sometimes you aren't the right person. And that's why it's imperative that you have a really strong circle of success. And that means for me, that's everybody that I surround myself with, that I allow into I'm big on energy. So it's the people that I allow into my energy field, right? Because I think energy is contagious. And so I'm very aware of the energies and the inputs that I allow in, and I'm consistently auditing my inputs. And I know that if I get to an adverse situation and I allow that situation to become overwhelming or chaotic or whatever it is, it's because I'm allowing an input from the outside in that is blocking my ability. So I'm consistently auditing my inputs. Who am I allowing to speak into these ears? Who am I allowing to get visual side of these? Who am I conversating with? It's all so important, so contagious. And my theory on auditing is this: I either implement or I delete immediately. What too many of us do is we allow everything in, and then we get this vortex of information, and it's like a tornado just spiraling around. If you'll audit and then either implement, like, okay, this is an implementable thing in my life. I like this. I'm going to use this. If it's not implementable, then get rid of it. Doesn't mean it can't come back. Doesn't mean it may not be valuable later. It just means right now it doesn't make sense to have inside of your cortex of action and thoughts and all of those things. So audit, implement, or delete.
Dude, I love that, man. I'm going to write that down. Audit,
implement,
delete.
Yeah, and that decreases overwhelm. Like, what's one of the main things people say to you when they come to you for like coaching or whatever? It's like, Shawn, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do next, because they've got so many things going on. They're listening to too many inputs. I call it the personal development vortex. It's like this tornado of like podcasts and books and gurus and seminars and money and like your family. And it's like, well, I don't even know what to do next. Start deleting.
Yeah. Well, this is the perfect, thing to say, even with this series, is where there are some people that I've met along the way who opt into the series, and they're like junkies where they just follow all the series, and I've done that. Don't get me wrong. There was a point where I picked up every freaking book I could find, and it just, but it's like, you got to be able to pause for a second and get present. And like, what are you doing? Is this a moment where you're just distracting yourself from the world? And so you just constantly have input. Like, pause, take the input, take some notes. And when this conversation ends, man, I say, give yourself 10 minutes and take, what were the key things that you learned or that made sense or that you want to explore, and then commit to something, to taking an action, some sort of an action, and then move on.
You know what I do? And this may be helpful for you guys listening. So I've been on my own personal development journey for over 15 years. And so when you start, you do overconsume. You overconsume because you're excited. You want a better life. You want more. And in the beginning, the idea is the more I consume, the more I can utilize. What you'll learn as you move further and deeper into your own journey is that not everything is implementable, right, in the immediate moment. And Shawn hit the nail on the head. If you're not going to take action on it in the moment, the likelihood of it being beneficial for you are pretty slim. So here's what I do. Say I'm going to go to an all-day seminar. Say there's going to be 10 speakers. My goal when I walk into that room is to take away 2 valuable nuggets. That's it. If I do that, I win. Now, might I get 5? Yes. Might I get more than that? Yes. But I'm gonna focus on 2 things that I can take immediate action on, as opposed to 20 things that I'm interested in taking action on. Doesn't mean I'm not going to write them down. Like, guys, let me show you this really quick. You're going to laugh at me. So this is my desk. My computer sets up on a little thing. These are my journals, right? Okay. So I got 4 journals right here. Some of them are full and some of them are very, very minimally written in. Sometimes I'll come back to a journal that's full and I'll find a nugget that I've never used before. And if it hits me in that moment, then it becomes an actionable step. Sometimes I'll go back to a journal and I'll read the notes that I've taken on a course or a seminar or whatever it is, and nothing resonates. I don't put pressure on the moment, because when it's ready and when it's right and when it's in alignment, it will jump off the page and slap you in the face. Right.
Yeah.
But you can't implement 20 things at one time.
No, you can't, man. I agree with you. A lot of conversations I have with people, they're overwhelmed. And it's really easy, even with some coaches I know, where I talked to my buddy a few weeks ago, and he had like 3 big goals that of like business ventures that he wanted to accomplish the next quarter. And by the time I was like, dude, look, man, it's not up to me to tell you like what to go for or what not to go for. And you're trying to get something off the ground, and you have 3 things that you want to get off the ground. It's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying not to limit you, but bro, I've known you for a year and you've been trying to get this stuff off the ground for a year. Like, maybe choose one. What's the one right now? It
doesn't mean the other things they can stay in the journal. Like they can stay on the bench, but you can't play every player at the same time. So focus on the player who's put one guy in the game, and then let's coach him up, right? Let's put him in position to win. It's going to be very difficult to put 3 big ideas in a winning formula in a quarter. I mean, that's going to be, I don't care who you are. That's a monumental task, right? So focus, laser focus.
Yeah, I like it, man. I like what you're saying about really sort of creating a hierarchy. Like if you go to a workshop or a seminar or something, and it's like distinguishing between, that's a great idea, and wow, this one is in alignment and is like right time, right place for me to implement. There's a big difference between those. And like a couple things to implement on is plenty things to implement on.
Yeah. Oftentimes we go to those things and we're like, okay, my gosh, I paid $399 or I paid $1,000 and I gotta do everything so it'll be worth it. But what's going to happen is you're going to try to do everything, and that's going to diminish the value. If you'll just focus on the 1 to 2 things, the return on investment of that is going to be exponentially greater than you trying to implement 20 different ideas or techniques or strategies or tools. It's just not, I promise you, I've been doing this for long enough to know that is a failing formula. The most successful people I know focus on taking action in the moment of inspiration. And that means you get that hit. That means this is what I got to take action on, and I got to go now.
Yeah, super powerful. Okay, let's go back like a little bit, because you were talking about inputs. I want to dig into inputs a little bit. Obviously you have like a clear system. It's, you practiced it. It's easy for you now to distinguish and look at, like you've made it a habit to look at your inputs. When you first had that realization about inputs and how different inputs were influencing your mind and your actions and your belief systems and things like that, what were some of the big inputs that you realized, whoa, this isn't really serving my life? Like, I'm sure there was a few of them. You want to walk us through like a few of those inputs that you realized like not working? You
hit the nail on the head. So I know so many people now, and I used to be this way. They'll say, hey, I'm going to read 100 books this year. I'm like, okay, cool. So my question to that person is always, well, what are you going to implement from those 100 books? I'm like, what do you mean? Like the most successful people in the world read books. I mean, there's a quote that goes around. It's like the most successful CEOs read 2 books a month or a book a week or something like that. And so
Ty Lopez says he reads a book a day. Yeah. Elon Musk says he did 2 a day.
Great. Listen, if you're Elon and that works, I don't know many Elons, and I don't know many Tys, right? And I don't know them well enough to know if that's an actual legit statement or if it's a social media like wowzer, right? And so what I always ask a young entrepreneur or somebody young in the game when they reach out to me and say, Jay, what book do you recommend I read for this? I never recommend the book. My next reply back to them is always a question. What book are you reading right now? They'll always say, oh my gosh, I'm reading this book. And I'm like, perfect. What are 2 things you're implementing on a daily basis consistently and you've been doing for at least the last 14 days? Well, Jay, that sucks, right? So now, because they're not, right? They're usually not implementing anything from the book. And so what I get them to do is think, well, wait a minute. Okay, this is a different way of thinking, right? Because You can read Think and Grow Rich all day long. You can read whatever insert title. And unless you're using something that you got from the book, I mean, are you really expanding your knowledge base? I mean, just because you read the book, yeah, just because you read the book doesn't make you any smarter or any more intelligent. Or yeah, you can screenshot it and say amazing book, but unless you can tell me 2 things you're taking from that book and actually implementing, or 1 thing that you're using on a daily basis, not once, not twice, but consistently, that's making your life better, then either you're reading the wrong books or you're reading for the wrong purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's one of the main things. And then I find too that, like, podcasts are another great example. Like, I have my own podcast. I love it. I love it when people listen. But I always tell people, like, listen, if you're listening to my podcast plus 10 other ones and you're trying to implement everything all 10 of us are saying, it's going to be confusing for you. Right. And so I was the same way. Like, I loved everybody's podcast when I started. I don't listen to music when I work out. I usually listen to a podcast or some kind of book or something of that nature. I'm a more of an audible person than I am a reader. So I can retain information really, really well. But I stopped listening to everything and I dialed that 10 podcasts down to 2. Now, I'm not saying I won't look around and say, okay, hey, this is a cool topic, cool guest. But now I audit my inputs based on what's the topic. Like, I won't listen to Joe Rogan just because it's Joe Rogan. It's got to be a topic that on the surface, I believe will bring me value. Yeah. And then when I get into it, if I don't find that value proposition, I'll stop listening to it. And I love Joe. I think he's got great perspectives, blah, 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 blah. I do the same thing with everybody. I won't just listen to a podcast because it's X person giving it. Whereas I used to, I just listened to like 10 shows, every show, blah, 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 way too overwhelming. So I just audited that down and realized that, like, hey, listen, I'm going to start listening based on topic instead of based on person who's delivering the message.
Yeah. And when you say a lot of what you're saying too, I mean, it does come back to what you said throughout this conversation is about alignment.
Yeah.
It's about alignment. Like, is this conversation I'm going to listen to align with like what I'm up to right now, what I'm implementing on right now, what the problem is I'm solving right now. And if it's a cool topic, but it's not alignment with that, then it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe listen to that one on my downtime when I just want to veg out for 30 minutes or something like 100%. That. But
yeah, that's the one. That's the one you listen to veg, and there's nothing wrong with that veg either. Like, I've got some of those like silly things that I listen to, right, just to let the brain kind of be cool for a while. And so you've got to have that too. Not everything has to, and that's another rule I have too. Like, not everything can be so damn serious, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, when you're hammering, everything looks like a nail. Right. And so when you're young in this journey, everything looks like a nail and you just want to hit it. Right. Yeah. And you think that, you think it's because it's the hustle, it's the grind, it's, it's all the, the Gary V screaming at you and everything like that. I used to love that stuff, man. I still get a kick out of it, but now I get a kick out of it. Now I find humor in it because I've been doing this long enough to know that, like, if you like, let's use this analogy. Let's just say you got an ice sculpture, right? And you want to turn it into whatever it is you want to turn it into, like an eagle or whatever it is. If you keep grinding on that eagle, it's no longer going to be an eagle, right? You're going to grind the wings off. You're going to grind the feet off. You're going to grind it down. So you've got to be able to, once you get to a certain place, and I'm hard work, HWPO, man, hard work pays off. But you've also got to have a perspective around that. Like, what's the end result? Like, what's the outcome I'm trying to get? If I want an eagle, I can't keep grinding that eagle down until he's the size of a hummingbird. That eagle needs to be big and badass, right?
Yeah.
But if you grind too much sometimes, and I think that's where the young entrepreneurs and the young people, and I keep saying young, I'll be 47 this year. So I'm not old, but I'm definitely not young. I think that's where they kind of get lost, is because if on social media, it's like grind. And it's like, eventually that grind gets to a place of where it's detrimental to your success as opposed to beneficial to your success. So you got to have that. You got to have that medium.
Yeah, and our world is really heavily skewed in that way. No matter what you're in, whether you're in corporate or you're entrepreneur.
Yep.
With our phone and with access to email, I mean, there really is a drift and an expectation of like, you're available all the time, anytime. You're working all the time, anytime. That's a skill set in itself, to just tune it, to be able to set a boundary and
Yeah.
be like, you know what, man, I'm going to go hard for a little bit, but it doesn't mean I have to go hard until 10 p.m. I've done
Yeah.
that. I did that when I first started my previous business, you know,
Me too.
but then it's
Yeah.
like, maybe there's another way to do it. It doesn't have to be that way. I think this part of it is just, for me, was that like, I'm carrying it. It's my responsibility. I got to be on all the
Yeah.
time, or I'm going to drop something,
Right.
which was just a belief. It wasn't actually true, but
Totally. It's that limiting belief you talked about earlier. It's like, if I don't do this, then everything else is just going to crumble and fall. And what
yeah,
you'll realize is that once you find your alignment, and you'll attest to this, once you find your alignment, you're cool. It's like, hey, I can, you know what? It's 6:30. I'm gonna go do a little quality time for me. Phone goes off, right? And I don't check it till tomorrow morning. Guess what? Since I started doing that, everything's improved. Like
yeah,
all things have improved. Business has improved, right? If you're available 24/7, 365, unless you're a brain surgeon, unless you're some kind of trauma surgeon or somebody we need on call 24/7, 365, you're doing yourself a disservice by always being available. Right. I'm not just
yeah,
talking from a business perspective. I'm talking about from available to that phone, available to social media, available. Sometimes you've got to be unavailable. All right. And that's what's going to help recharge you and get you into that alignment that you need to be, because, I'll go back to the hustle and the grind mentality. That's the easiest way. Most people that I know that are living that hardcore hustle, hardcore grind, you can't be in alignment and do that 24/7, because it's too chaotic. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So you got to make sure it's purposeful and passion driven. It'd be really hard to fall out of alignment if you're doing that.
Yeah, it's so powerful, man. I love alignment. I want to dig more into alignment even.
Yeah.
Let's go back again. Because you had mentioned when we started this conversation, you had worked for pharmaceutical company, you
Yeah.
worked for nutrition companies, you had done this, like you had the expense account. But there was a moment in time, I guess, where you transitioned from that to creating your own thing.
Yeah.
What was going on for you at that time, where you already had a career that was working, but there was some, you were feeling called, I guess, to go do something else? Can you sort of talk about that time frame, what
Yeah.
you were experiencing and how it was showing up, and then what ultimately had you like take a leap into entrepreneurship or a
Yeah.
different path?
You know what? I was living somebody else's version or vision of my life. I'm not sure whose that was, but it wasn't mine. Like, so like, again, I'll be 47 in October. So when I grew, the generation when I grew up, it was like, corporate job, 401k. I mean, there was not, the entrepreneurial explosion was not a cool thing, right? You needed a steady job, to every paycheck every 2 weeks. Maybe you get a bonus if you work really, really, really hard. If you had a company car, it was a big deal. Business cards, name, all that jazz, right? Titles mattered back in the generation when I was growing up. And so I think I fell into that conditioning. Let's go back to that. I fell into that conditioning of, well, winning means this, right? It's the title of the job that I have and the company that's on the business card. I was putting that ahead of the thing that really mattered on the business card, and that was the name, right? I wasn't living for the name, which was Jay Nixon. I was
Yeah,
living for the title above the name and the company above that title. And that was my who are you? Well, this is who I work for. This is it's my title. This is what I do. I think a lot of times we get caught up in that. I started feeling a sense of discontentment. So I loved working in the nutrition world because I kind of grew up as like just a nutrition geek, a body freak. Like I used to read Muscle and Fitness when I was like 7. I loved it. It's always been something that's like purposeful and passion driven for me. So that was
yeah,
a great job. But I got to a point where it was like, okay, I'm going to max out here, right? I'm at probably one of the higher levels I'm going to get in the nutrition world. What's the next step? Well, I mean, who doesn't want to be a pharmaceutical rep, right? That back in the day, that used to be the piece de resistance. Like if you had that job, it was like your big deal, right? And so I'm like, I busted my ass. I got that job. And that's where the discontentment really started. Because I'm an uber natural nutrition guy, selling things and talking about things that I'd never put in my own body, that I'd never
yeah,
even let my mom take. And so that was where the discontentment and the pull started happening there. And so, just knowing that I was doing something that wasn't in alignment with who I was internally was something that I struggled with on a daily basis. And here's how the struggle manifested itself. You remember how I said earlier, I get up at 3 a.m. and I'm psyched about it?
Yeah.
I didn't want to get out of bed, right? I had a great job. I didn't want to get out of bed. I wasn't motivated, because when you're out of alignment, it's not, and listen, I've always been a winner. Like, I've always been like, if we're playing, I'm playing to win. I don't care what it is. If I could play my grandma in checkers, like, grandma's ass is getting beaten checkers. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
She knows that. Everybody knows that. We're going to be cool in the end, but I'm playing to win. And I wasn't winning anymore. And so I'm like, this, and I was young too, though, man. I'm in my young 20s. And so I'm like, I just fight through it. What do I do? Right. So it was this big, just vortex of like, just not thriving in life. I was just surviving, even though on paper, it was all right. On paper, everything was where it was supposed to be. And so I just knew in that. And so as I transitioned out of that, I got the opportunity to start consulting for the NFL alumni. Really cool job. I mean, I got to travel to, I was at the Super Bowl in Miami sitting in a VIP box. I went to the Pro Bowl. Like, I've played golf with Troy Aikman. I've played golf with Dan Marino, John Elway. I was at Don Shula's 80th birthday party, me and 30 other people. So I've been where, as kids growing up watching these guys play, I hung out with Terry Bradshaw for an entire day, just me and him. He was my idol growing up.
Man.
I realized that this was a cool gig, but I'm like, wait a minute. These are dudes. They're just like me, that live their passion. And that's when it hit me when I was in that job. I'm like, listen, this is cool what I'm doing, but this isn't my passion, right? Like, I'm just a part of their passion. I'm a part of that conditioning from back when I was a youngster, of like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Dallas Cowboys. Like, I'm hanging out with Lawrence Taylor, like, unbelievable, right? Barry Sanders, Emmett Smith, you name it. Like, I've hung out with these people.
Man. Yeah.
But I realized I was a part of their dream, right? Because I was, it's like when I put the jersey on that doesn't have my name on the back, right? It's like, that's cool, but it's like, what if I put my name on the back of this jersey? And I started living for that dude. And that's when I realized, like, okay, like, listen, I got a skill set that's crazy. Like, I know more about nutrition. I know more about drugs, the human body, how to deal with NFL guys. Like, I've been in situations and scenarios. I've got all the resources, but I wasn't putting them into play. I was using them for somebody else's benefit and somebody else's success. Came home, talked to my significant other, and I'm like, listen, I know I'm out of alignment. Like, I know this, I know I can't keep doing this for the rest of my life. She said, you want the truth? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, you should be a personal trainer. I like, you want me to go work at 24 Hour Fitness? Like, you're crazy as hell. Like, I'm used to making money. I'm used to making 6 figures plus. I'm used to hanging out with LT. I'm not going to 24 Hour Fitness. Right. And she's like, no, she's like, you're thinking too small. Right. I got caught up in this small level thinking, upper limiting, that because I was a personal trainer, I was going to make $9.99 an hour, struggle, not, you know what I mean? And like, so I started having to craft my own vision of, what is this? Okay, listen, just because I'm going to do this, right? So first of all, I never called myself a personal trainer, right? I'm like, I'm going to change the narrative, because I was conditioned to believe. So a lot of times we think we have to change the term, and I just changed the narrative. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm a transformational life coach, right? What the hell does that mean? I don't know. I just made it up. But it made me, I stood a little bit taller, and I got a little bit more into it, and I became who I said I was. Like, the vision of who I wanted to be was who I turned into. But if I would have stayed in that same line of saying, well, I don't want to be just a personal trainer. Like, that's just something that I do. I personal train? Bet your ass. That's not who I am, right? Who I am is this guy. And I created this like almost alter ego persona. And that's what I started living in alignment with. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I started out in the broom closet of a chiropractor's office with no clients. Then I got 1, then I got 2, Then I got 3. Fast forward over almost 15 years ago, 12 years ago, when I started, now I've got clients in Australia, in the UK, all over the world, written 2 books, I have my own studio, like, you know, I have my own coaching program. And so I say all that to say that don't let that limiting belief of insert whatever you want to insert in personal trainer limit you from doing the thing that you know you need to be doing, because you can create your own way. You can create your own version. And kind of what I did early on, I know I'm long-winded here, but this is such a unique story. I had started my business, and I was having success, paying the bills, wasn't where I wanted to be, wasn't where I knew I could be. It was probably around December of that year. And I remember sitting at my desk and I'm thinking, okay, what can I do that's different? Right? Because I've never wanted to be traditional. I've never liked to be just this. So I started looking online. This was back in the day before, this is probably like 12 years ago. This is before you could fall down and land on a coach or fall down and land on a program or whatever. So I started Googling. I'm like, weight loss, transformation, New Year's challenges. I don't even remember what I Googled. And this course popped up, and it was a $99 course. And it said, I don't remember who the guy was. I'll teach you how to create a 30-day New Year's transformation program. I'm like, $99, what do I got to lose?
Yeah.
I bought the program for $99. I got it. And I'm like, this is good, but I could make this way better. So I started creating my own version of that was in alignment with what I wanted to teach and talk about, which was personal development, which was mindset, which was psychology. And I coupled eat this, like, have a salad instead of a donut, like, mind-blowing shit. I coupled that with this psychological piece, and I created my own program and my own thing. I've turned that $99, and I don't say this as a boastful thing. I say this so that you can do this if I can. I've turned that $99 into multiple millions of dollars. Just from wanting more and knowing that I didn't have all the answers. Like, I didn't have the answer. I needed somebody to say, hey, how about this idea? And then I took that idea and I made it my own.
Yeah. Super powerful, man. Well, dude, there's so much you said there. I just want to highlight. No, man, that was gold. Everything was gold. And one of the things I want to highlight is that, as cool as it was that you were hanging out playing golf with these guys that you watched, that I watched, growing up, and you realize there's this interesting thing where it's like these guys have so much energy around them, and it's so cool what they're doing. It's easy to just want to jump in that and be like, wow, I'm playing golf with John Elway, like. Yeah. But again, it's their vision that manifested, that you jumped into. And it's really powerful that you realize that. And then you realize, like, there's no separation in terms of what's the makeup of who they are and who you are. I think that was really powerful. Yeah. And then, what else is powerful that you said is the whole thing about titles. I want to go be this. I want to go be a trainer. I want to go be a day trader, or whatever it is that you want to do. But it is limiting to look at it that way, and to not look at it. It's so powerful how you looked at it as through the vision. Yeah. I mean, that was my interpretation of what you said. Totally. Like, you had a vision for this guy that you knew internally you were already. There wasn't a title for that. No. And it's like, if you're going to be limited by the title, then you would have called yourself a trainer. Right. But instead, you made up this cool name on the fly, and it didn't matter if someone wasn't selling that name and, of course, to be that guy. But, like, you had this vision for what you wanted to do. And then the trainer was maybe the door to get in and start. Yeah. But, like, right from the get-go, you went for that big vision. And what else I thought was powerful about that is that, so I think the default mindset is, if you're going to start over into something, you got to start at the bottom. Yeah. But you don't. No. You really don't. And if you already are successful and you've got this success history and track record, you don't have to start at the bottom. You can create the vision and start and make your first year as successful as the last year was at the other place. If it's a money thing that you're trying to fill the gap in, then that first year you can fill that gap. And you don't have to hold yourself small to start. on the ground level because you don't have any experience yet in this new thing that you're going into. Who cares? You bring all that with you. You bring your superpower into what you're going to create next.
100%. And it goes back to that conditioning. We've been conditioned to believe, well, if you're going to do something new, you got to start at the bottom. You got to start over. Like, you don't have to start over. Like
No.
you've got to, what I realized is, like, when I looked back at the portfolio of my life, I'm like, look at these resources. Like, look at everything. I've got my own line of supplements now because I had resources, because I knew people. Like, I'll give you guys a quick example. Here's how powerful resources are. So if you want to have your own line of supplements, whoever's listening, you probably know this. You don't just get it, it's yours. I'm not talking about white labeling. I'm talking about, like, you
Right.
create this product and it is proprietary to you. You're going to have to buy thousands and thousands and thousands of units and bottles and labels and you name it. I created resources where I met the owner of a nutritional manufacturer and became friends with him. And I said, hey, man, I'd like to have my own line. What if, can I use your lab, your resources, your people, create my own products, use limited runs, and if you like it, you can tweak it a little bit and bring it into your line. He's like, deal, done. So I get to make any product on the planet that I want because I made resources and connections throughout the year. Not because I'm smart, not because I'm anything, it's resources, right? So I want you guys to start thinking about that when you're thinking about the next level of who you want to be. Is like, start maximizing your resources. And this is why it's the old adage of what Jim Rohn or somebody said it, right? You're successful as the 5 people you hang around. Cool, right? You're successful as the resources of the 5 people you hang around. Make sure you're hanging around people who want you to win. That's the cool thing about the life that I've created, is like, anyone who's in my life wants me to win as much as I want to win. And that's because there's a big reciprocity thing. Like, if you're in my circle, you don't get a choice. Like, you're going to win because I'm going to make you win. I'm going to push you to win. I'm going to help you win. And I want that same thing from you. And when you get a group like that, it's impenetrable. It's amazing.
Dude, 100%, man. It's so valuable. I agree with you. I feel blessed as well that I have a group of people around me who only hold me high. Yeah. And if I have people around me who don't, I don't hear from them. I don't know who they are. I couldn't put a finger or a name to anyone who doubts me because they're not close enough. They're not in my circle.
Yeah, you don't know me well enough if you're doubting me.
No, I don't hear you. So if you doubt me, that's fine, because I'll never hear you.
Exactly.
Jay, man, this has been powerful, brother, man. I love talking to you, bro. Your positivity is infectious and it's easy to talk to you. And so thanks, man. I acknowledge you for that.
I appreciate the opportunity. I really do look at this. And my goal for everybody listening is that one thing, right? If I said one thing that mattered or that you can take action on, then I consider this to be, I won today, right?
Yeah. Well, man, let me do this too. I know you mentioned something about a accountability matrix, right? Like you have a gift that you're going to give away to the audience. Yeah. So I'd love for you to highlight that. Have you highlight that so the people that are listening that would like to connect with you, they can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the accountability matrix is what I use in my own. Here's one of the cool things about, if you ever listen to anything I say, it's because I implement it in my own life, right? And that's how I know it works. And so the accountability matrix is what I use to make sure that I'm staying in alignment, right? So it's a level 1 through 10. Anything below a 7 is, in my wording, like a victim level behavior. Anything above that 7 means that I'm taking the appropriate steps and actions and I have the right mindset to create positivity, right? And so accountability is going to be accountability and consistency are going to be 2 of your major keys to whatever it is you want to do in life, all the way from having successful relationships, all the way to making more money. The further you wait, this is maybe one of the best things I say today. The further you move away from accountability, the weaker you become. That's with everything. That's with money. That's with your fitness. That's with just think about it. Think about the places and spaces in your life where you've moved away from accountability. Those are probably your weakest areas. Those are probably the areas that you struggle in. Most people who are overweight aren't accountable in that fashion, right? They may be highly accountable somewhere else, right? They may be financially doing great because they know how to be accountable there. And if you've got the skill to do it in one area of your life, it's transferable to every other space and place in your life. It's not that you don't understand how to do it, right? It's that you're making a decision to not hold yourself accountable, and or you don't have the right people in your life that are holding you accountable to that vision of what it is that you say you want.
Yeah, super powerful, man. I love that. 100%. So they can grab that matrix,
Yep,
and kind of examine where they're not being accountable. And
super
like,
self-explanatory. Yeah.
cool. Okay, cool. Well, I'll plug it. It's plugged right in the email.
Perfect.
So if you're watching and it speaks to you, grab it. Grab it right now. Don't put it in that sounds cool, I'll grab it later. Grab it right now, download it, and look at it. Take 10 minutes right now, look at it, and I'm certain that whatever it is on that matrix that's designed for you, where you are right now in your life, it's going to pop off the page at you. Yeah, taking a page from Jay's words from earlier in the interview, but it'll pop off the page at you. All right, my man. Well, dude, thanks for hanging out today.
Thank you.
Everyone watching, thanks for hanging out, and go implement, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. All right, team. I hope you love that interview. Shawn is an amazing guy. We had a very great connection. As you can see, we just bantered back and forth. That could have went for a lot longer than it did. What I want to tell you now is that if you were touched, hit, impacted by that interview, it's time to make a change. It's time to make a shift. It's time to actually do something and get yourself moving in the direction of that purpose-driven life that you do desire. Reach out to me. Let me know how I can help you. We can do a one-on-one coaching session. You can join my Thrive Forever Fit program. Hopefully you're already a member of my free group, the Wellness Lab Launchpad. Either way, anyway, make sure you reach out and get that connection and get that help you need to start living the life that you deserve and desire. All right, guys, have a beautiful day. We'll see you next week with another awesome show. Bye.